Comments by the administration?
Sure, just a few comments, Council President. In general, we talked about the budget when we introduced it. We're incredibly proud of this budget. As everyone knows, this has been a tough 2 years. Bridgewater lost last year over $2 million of revenue as a result of COVID, mostly coming from hotel taxes, mall revenues. We've also saw last year, of course, a decrease in court revenues, a decrease in inspections, fees because of decreased construction. We're happy that some of those numbers came back. As the economy has improved, as COVID has let up, we've seen some of those numbers return. But the reality is that they're still not down, they're still not back up to where they were in pre-2020 timeframes. So like most municipalities and residents and businesses, we continue to struggle with a loss of revenue that came from sources, from those sources in particular. The mall continues to be an issue that we monitor closely. The hotels are getting better, but there again, businesses just aren't traveling, and hotel business, business travel is what drives our hotels in Bridgewater. So we were we used, with the council's support, had the foresight in order to find ways of making up that revenue, which we did last year through a variety of methods, and which we continue to do this year, and we'll continue to do for years, the next few years probably to come. So a couple quick highlights. This tax rate remains the same. We did not, there's no increase in tax rate. We've had some residents that mentioned that they said that the taxes have gone up. The reality is that if your house was assessed at $500,000 last year and your house is assessed at $500,000 this year, you pay the same amount of taxes. That is keeping taxes even. That is what this budget does. We are collecting an additional $300,000 of overall revenue. That's because we have more people paying in. And as a whole, we also want to make sure that having our overall rateable base grow is exactly what you want as a community. That is what's reflective in the increase in our the overall amount of money that's collected through taxation that was referenced by one of the residents. It's because we have a larger tax rateable base, which is exactly what we want. So if your house is assessed at the same amount of money, then this budget will not raise your taxes at $1. Now, the school district might raise your taxes, or the county might raise your taxes, but it won't be coming from Bridgewater Township. There was a reference made to debt. I think Mr. Bruckner mentioned it about the overall debt. I don't know if the residents, if he realized or not, but the debt has to be for capital improvements. That's our road program. So certainly, if we wanted to not do any roads this year, well, we could not do any debt. Conversely, if we wanted to pay for roads with cash, we could raise $7.5 million in taxes and talk about tax increase on the residents would be an extraordinary tax increase on the residents. So what we continue to do, which is what we outlined before, is it's a 5-year plan. We will continue to spend the $8 million a year on our roads. We will do that over 5 years. And with the rates of bonding, we will continue to, in large measure, bond that money. That's exactly what it's for. It's for long-term improvements, and that's what we're going to use it for. It's not for operating expenses. With regard to, but to the issue of debt, one of the things that we did this year is we issued refunding bonds so we could refinance some of the debt that we have. We also, in this budget, paid off some of the debt that we incurred last year. If the council remember, we did 2 things for our budget last year. One was we issued emergency bonds, which is a special appropriation that the state lets you do when you have an emergency like COVID. So in this year's budget, we're paying that off. So we don't have that in future years. We're also paying off our Social Security. If the council remember last year, in order to make our budget balance, the federal government allows you to spread out your Social Security payments over multiple years, which allowed us to take about $500,000 out of our budget last year, but we're paying it off entirely this year. We don't have to, but we're jumping ahead of it. So one of the residents was concerned that there was a I think it was about $1.5 million of what looked like increased spending this year, but those residents can rest easy because those are one-time expenditures to pay off the approximate $1.5 million of debt from last year. So those numbers will not appear in our budget next year. So at the end of the day, this budget will do exactly what we promised to do. It will deliver all the services that the residents require and that they want from us. We will continue to fund our road program, fund our police department, and continue to keep taxes from going up in Bridgewater.